Manchester United 0, Spurs 2. Our first away game of the season ends in defeat. Another defeat against what is traditionally a top 9 team, top half team anyway. And the poor mentality on the road continues from last year.
And it shouldn't. It shouldn't. It's a new season. We should be coming into it feeling a lot more confident in comparison to how the season started for us last year. Number one. Number two, we came off a better than expected season. Pre-season wasn't the best. Manager got 3 signings in, 2 started today. We should be demanding better than what we saw today, to be honest, number one. Number two, I think the biggest issue that we have, and we've seen it last year, we've seen it in the past as well, so maybe it's not a Ten Hag thing, but is we can, last year you can see us play good for 20-ish minutes and then heads drop if we concede a goal. In the past, the last 4, 5, 6 seasons, it's been like that. When we concede a goal, heads drop, players lose their confidence, and suddenly everybody becomes erratic. Everybody's erratic on the ball, they're erratic in defence, they're erratic all over the pitch. And I just think it's a standard that's not good enough at the club. The manager needs to stamp it out.
A lot of people are starting to question some of Erik Ten Hag's decisions now, whether it be in-game with substitutes or starting lineups, or bigger than that in terms of personnel that he's bringing into the club. Where do you think that should be labelled at, some of this blame or some of this, responsibility for how bad things are in terms of performances in the first 2 games?
I don't want to be like, oh, look at Zerbi or, look at Spurs' manager, etc. But if I'm being honest, I expect better when you've had 2 pre-seasons and then a whole entire seasons, 2 transfer windows. You've had opportunities to bring in the players that you might want to. You've had opportunities to work with the team. You've had 2 pre-seasons. I get last year, and maybe it's because some people feel like we overachieved last season, especially in the way that we started the season. But if you've had 2 pre-seasons to work on with your team, you've had 2 main summer transfer windows, you've managed to bring in a bulk number of signings, expensive ones as well, I think questions have to be asked, especially because after watching that Wolves game earlier this week, or when was that? Monday, yeah. We knew that Bruno, Casemiro and Mount midfield was a bit questionable. Today we saw similarities from that Wolves game, and we will probably continue to see it throughout the season. We saw when Bruno's leading the press, which he initially does because Rashford doesn't, and I guess that's a decision by the manager. Bruno leads the press. You have Rashford in that little 10 space. You have and you have Mount coming up to assist Garnacho, who's on the left in that little half space between the striker and the winger. It's just Casemiro with all that space. And what happened today? Sarr comfortably dribbled out. Basuma comfortably dribbled out. I think he ended up getting dragged back at one point. We saw it with Wolves. We saw Lamina doing it. We saw Mateus Nunes doing it. And we will probably continue to see it happen when we come up against teams with a lot better midfields, when we come up against the likes of Chelsea, when we come up against City, when we come up maybe against Liverpool, when we come up against Arsenal. Maybe, and I know a lot of people even was questioning it when Mount came into the club. How is this going to work? Because Bruno, Mount, kind of similar, somewhat similar. Casemiro loan. I do not think that this will work for the rest of the season. And it's either Ten Hag will realise it the hard way or he'll realise it now.
So you don't think the midfield can work?
I don't think this midfield will work unless something happens where Bruno plays deeper. Because we've seen last season Bruno playing deeper, partnering Casemiro. We've seen that. We've seen Erik Ten Hag clearly has the ability to shift players around to accommodate other players. So it's not a question about whether Ten Hag can do it or not. It's whether or not he's going to be so consistent and persistent with it working. Because that might be our downfall, is if he's persistent.
Yeah, because he's brought Mason Mount into the club. He's bought him for £55 million. That was our first, plus add-ons, that was our first signing. So if it doesn't work, this is going to be completely on Erik Ten Hag.
100%, and it's rightfully so. Rightfully so. In the past, when players have come in, even if they weren't the manager's signing, people were questioning it. And I think it's rightfully so. So if it does not work, we can question the manager. And one thing I don't get is sometimes people are very reluctant. We can question Erik Ten Hag. People are reluctant to do that. And I don't know why it is. You can question him and criticise him. You don't have to be Ten Hag out, but you can question his decision making. Today, he shifted Bruno out to the right, brought on Eriksen, kept Mount in the 10, left Rashford up top. Why did he do that? I don't know, because first 5, 6, 10 minutes, Eriksen was involved. Then I didn't see him again. I didn't see him again. And, we talk about, if we specifically talk about the game today, the issue that we had today is that we shot ourselves in the foot, because both goals we conceded was stupid mistakes from us. Number one. Number two, we're not clinical in front of goal enough. I don't care about how many chances we create. I saw a stat that said that I think in like the first half we created 13 or something chances and we had like 3 on target. That's not good enough. I'm sorry. Rashford had a header, albeit it was offside. He needs to be better and finish that. He had a ball played through, tried to dink the keeper. Keeper made a good save. He needs to be better. Bruno Fernandes, open header. He needs to be better. Anthony, all of that space he had to aim for the goal, he hits the post. He needs to be better. Alejandro Garnacho, questionable decisions that he made. There was times where he was trying to run at his man, do step overs, cut in, when he could have maybe just played the easier pass. And I think that was our biggest problem today. And it will probably continue to be our problem, because I'll be honest, the performances that we saw last week and the performance that we saw today, can you actually say that it was any better?
Yeah, I think today was better than Wolves, because there was a period of the game where we were in the ascendancy and should have scored. Then the penalty incident happened as well, which we didn't get. But after that didn't last long, because second half, what was it?
Yeah, and it's a tale of two halves. And I'll be honest, I said this post-match before. I said, if we are going to be a Premier League caliber team, we need to be good for at least 60-ish minutes. Like at the least, we need to be good for 60-ish minutes, especially when you're coming up against teams that you can go toe-to-toe with, teams that you're playing away from home. We need to be good for at least 60 minutes. This whole 20 minutes and dip is not cutting it.
Yeah.
It's not cutting it. We saw it last season. We were lucky with that Wolves game, and obviously we got, excuse my language, we got our asses handed to us today because of our own mistakes and our own wrongdoing. We need to hold ourselves accountable. The players need to hold themselves accountable. And Erik ten Hag needs to be held accountable for some of the decisions that he made.
What's going on with Marcus Rashford at the minute?
I'll be honest, I just don't think players perform in the positions that they don't want to play in. And I don't know if that's because they're reluctant to try, because we see it with Bruno when he goes out to the right. We see he's not good there. So we see the same with Marcus Rashford when he goes up top. When he goes up top, he cannot play back to goal. He cannot hold the ball up. We all know that. And I feel like when it comes to, I saw he ground duels. I think he won 2 out of 7. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. Not for a striker, not for a winger, not for anybody. I think he out of the front line, he lost the most ground duels out of everybody today. And I think that's just not good enough, especially because today I feel like a lot more was going towards him in comparison to the Wolves game. I would have thought he could have bagged a goal, maybe 2. Can him and Garnacho play together? Are they too similar? Because it seems like Rashford really wants to play out wide, and obviously Garnacho's playing out wide. So I'm not being harsh, because it's only game week 2. We will grow into the season 100%. We will stamp out these issues, but it needs to be stamped out ASAP, because we got Arsenal in 2 weeks, we got Brighton, we got City in the derby in a month and a half. This needs to be stamped out now.